captain going down with the ship routine. Right? They know Star Wars is dead. And they just went, "Hey, Brie Larson, do you want a promotion?" And meanwhile, Marvel meanwhile, the lifeboat that is Marvel sails off into the distance because they know that's got a chance.
Okay, we're live, gentlemen and ladies. Oh boy, yeah, we were just giggling about the Brie Larson potential rumor of her manning or femming a lead role in a Star Wars trilogy. It's amazing. It's just, wow. Who knows if that's real, if it is going to happen. Hats off to Disney for being bold and beautiful and brave. Whew. Okay, guys, here. Welcome to this impromptu stream for Mass Effect. This is a Gaming Bolt video. It came out, I think, last week, and my Discord was like, "Hey, check this out." And I thought this was cute. This was simple. This was, sort of like the mainstream kind of video that a channel would do to get, oh yeah, we have Mass Effect fans. We'll do a Mass Effect video. Short and sweet. Nothing too controversial. Nothing too spectacular. But naturally, us who are kind of well-versed in this sort of lore, we're like, ooh, this is going to be bad. So with me is UDP again, and hopefully this will not take, I don't know, I'm guessing in half hour to an hour, hopefully. UDP?
Yeah. It depends how off track we actually get and how much the guy actually annoys us with whatever he's going to say out of his mouth.
Yeah, I've only gone through half of it, which is 3 minutes. So I was like, all right, that's I'll see what comes next. But
if there's any mention of my themes, I'm going to flip a table.
Okay, here we go.
Is something that no one can ever take away from them. They've made numerous games over the years that can vie for the throne of the greatest game ever created, and at one point they were the...
Okay, I don't know if I would ever say Mass Effect 2 is the greatest game ever made. I think it's one of the most popular games ever made, and people will look at Bioware and see this as its crowning achievement just because of popularity, and it's fun, it's simple to get into, it has something for everyone, I guess, but it's a poor sequel with bloated characters or a bloated roster of characters, a really rickety, if not broken plot at times, and janky gameplay. I don't know what we'd call gameplay on a good day for Mass Effect 2. I've played the game a lot where I've just gotten stuck in walls or parts of the terrain because I do a lot of vanguarding. And as fun as it was, you have to save often, which I guess is common for RPGs. Not so common in shooter RPGs, so I don't know if that's a thing to be wary of. But you know what? If you love the game, more power to you. Obviously, we love the series. We just had major problems with, every aspect of it, except maybe the music, I think, is relatively
Music's
okay.
always good. Yeah. It's like a Final Fantasy game. It's like you could drop launchers, but it's like the music's always going to be great.
Yeah, like Star Wars, any episode. It's like, yep, music's great. John Williams is awesome.
Undisputed kings of the role-playing genre, and of all the games they've ever made, Mass Effect 2 is arguably their best work ever. And
again, is it really? I don't know. I think Dragon Age kind of fit the mold for what they were trying to do, how they achieved it. Mass Effect 1 certainly had a lot of bumps, a lot of bruises. It was more Kotor-ish at times than it should have been, I thought, because they were trying to do their own thing. Yet they still sort of laid heavy on the RPG mechanics. A lot of ideas that did not get fully fleshed out. A huge inventory system. Strange RPG stats that Christina Norman in Mass Effect 2 didn't like for some reason. Like all sorts of things. People bring up the Mako all the time. I actually enjoyed the Mako. I didn't think it was that bad an idea. I didn't like the idea of not being a shuttle, but that's because I'm used to the shuttles now in Mass Effect 2. And the concept behind the Normandy was that it is the shuttle. It drops you in, and then off you go to the races in your Mako, which is a tank essentially with 6 wheels. It can go up terrain like crazy. So make of it what you will. For what it did it well, successfully, not without its flaws though. And it was really the story and storytelling that sold you on playing that game the 6th or the 7th time. Whereas Mass Effect 2, you can play it multiple ways, but it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do Renegade this time. Or there's always going to be that Paragon option you always choose. You always hug Tally, or you always do this. So there are some great points, for sure. The best, I wouldn't go that far.
That's not praise that's easily given, especially for a developer whose back catalog includes the likes of Baldur's Gate 2, Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, among many others.
Yeah, I'd go with Kotor. I think Kotor would be the taking the franchise, the Star Wars franchise, and making it an RPG, giving it a story, giving it voice acting, attempting to do lip sync, doing branching paths, light side, dark side, like that. That was pretty big. I guess you can call it a sleeper hit. I don't know how well it did, but one of the better stories out there that Bioware did.
But Mass Effect 2 is just that good. A distillation of everything that made Bioware the kings of narrative and choice-driven RPGs, Mass Effect 2 is a title that will always be remembered as one of the greatest games ever.
I would go so far as to say that it is good because of the cutscenes and because of Armando Tracy. And making cutscenes that are cinematic with voice acting is kind of like playing a movie. Like half the time you're playing a movie. And I think that's the appeal. So if you get rid of that element, it's just no one cares. It's just like a knockoff KOTOR, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they talk about the choices. It's not really that they have different choices. They have they have plenty of choices. When they talk about consequences, it's not really consequences that you have. You just have different lines of dialogue. Like if you choose Paragon or Renegade, pretty much the same thing's going to happen. You're just going to have a different line of dialogue. You're not actually making a Renegade choice that will have a Renegade impact.
Right. And when you make that choice, to me, it's always the back of my mind, oh, geez, I wonder how this is going to play out in the next game. Because when you make that choice, like, oh, something big is going to happen, right? And then when you find out what happens to the galaxy, you're like, oh, we're chasing around Cerberus. Where did they come from? Why are they so important? Why are the Rachni irrelevant, even though it was such a big deal? Why is the Shadow Broker? I guess you could say the Shadow Broker was the biggest point of Mass Effect 2. He could have been a lot bigger, though. I thought he would have been.
He should have actually been the ally because he was actually against Saren.
Yeah.
In Mass Effect 1, it's like people completely gloss over this fact. It's just like he was actually trying to hunt down Saren because Saren kind of went along with, and Saren kind of peed him off a lot. So it's like, yeah, he should be a potential ally or at least a neutral party that would kind of be giving you information. It's just not Tim.
Yeah, and because of Mr. Walters, he sort of turned him into an enemy because of the comics that Shepard's body came from him because of his deal with the collectors, and Liara had to go save his body. It's like, okay, well, sure. See, I always saw the concept of the Shadow Broker, Tim, as like the two big ringleaders in the galaxy. They were the ones like pulling the strings. They had the real power, but they weren't like exercising it, or else they'd be discovered. So they were always doing things behind. That's kind of what gave the galaxy a certain feeling, like when you go to Omega, it's a seedy underbelly. But you know what? I'm Cerberus. I'm even worse than them. I'm like this really bad group I'm with, and I'm trying to shed light by doing the right thing, even though I'm working for a bad group of people. They never really explored that. It was never a major theme. It was like, oh, you're with Cerberus? That's okay, bye. Like that was it. Like that was the whole thing. Even with the council, the council's like, you're with Cerberus. We can't publicly endorse you. It's like, okay, so I can still keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah. You want to be a Spectre again? It's like,
That's the whole thing as well. Yeah, I've said this multiple times, but he completely undermines the whole Spectre status thing. Being able to go, it's like we need some way to figure out for Shepard to go anywhere, do whatever he or she wants. It's like, you mean the Spectres, the thing that you've got promoted to because you earned it.
The thing you always were.
Yeah, it was
a big deal. The first game.
It's like, yeah. It's like the reason why it was so hard to take down Saren was because everything he touched was classified. That's why it's just like, you people just keep undermining the first game. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, and it could have been a great dynamic to actually, let's say, promote Ashley in the second game to a Spectre, and she was hunting you down. Or
Yeah, if you became too renegade, then yeah, she would be sent out to hunt you down like you did Saren because
yeah,
of your action.
which is why the whole Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC was so good, was because you had an actual Spectre who was doing Spectre things that happened to crisscross with you and get in your way. And you're like, oh, this is interesting. They're basically another version of me. And there's actually a conversation where that happens. And sadly, it doesn't develop into anything more. But at least it had the intelligence to address the reality of what you're doing. And then they brought in the Shadow Broker and Liara and her revenge plot and all these other things like driving a taxi and God knows what else. So it had so much going for it. In like, was it 4 hours of gameplay? I don't even know what it was. Plus all that extra lore content we got from the text screens at the
The dossiers.
the dossiers. Yeah, that was like, oh, this is really great stuff. We found out about Miranda. We found all this information about everyone else on such a private level, and it was just text on a screen.
That could have actually been interesting if that was included in the main game. Like you're buying information, let's say you want to try and recruit Miranda, and you pull out all this information by dossier, and you start mentioning things from the past, and she's like, "How do you know?" It's just like, "Oh, sorry, oops."
Yeah, no,
kind of jumping the gun a little bit.
my boss just gave me all this intel. I don't have it. I don't use it. It's like, gee, thanks, Tim. Go get Zaid Masani. Why? I said so. It's like, well, who is this guy?
Yeah.
It would have been nice if we had the freedom to choose who to get in over the other, as opposed to always playing the game, always getting everyone, Pokemoning the whole galaxy because Tim said so. It's just a silly reasoning. If there was like a reason behind every single character why you got them, then you know what? They could have written the story and the climax of the story being the suicide mission a hell of a lot better because they have reasons to go into that chapter saying, okay, we know Zaid is X, he has to do Y, as opposed to, well, Zaid's a badass and he's pretty good with a gun and he's led teams before. Yeah, he's basically a version of Garrus, right? It's like, well, kind of, but not really. It's like, he's Garrus. He's another version of Garrus. So is Jacob. You're like, well, does everyone trust or even like Jacob? Like, what? How does this work? Like, there's all these questions that pop up that should have been part of the story, like team building. Where was the team building? There was no interaction between characters. It was just you, Shepard, and everyone else. Like, oh, we're doing it for Shepard. We're doing it for Shepard. We don't like Cerberus. Well, I am Cerberus, but we're working with Cerberus. So why don't you get to know them? Why doesn't Miranda actually get out of her shell, as opposed to just being friendly all of a sudden? Like, she hates your guts. She absolutely despises you as soon as she meets you. And then as soon as she's on the ship, she's like, oh, hi, Shepard. Hey, how's it going? You're like, wait, whoa, where did this come from? Whereas Jacob's just the opposite. He's friendly. Like, oh, my God, you're alive. It's amazing. And then he's like, ugh, I got to go find my dad, but I don't really give a crap. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you? It's your dad. It's such a 180 on both these characters. And we could say Jacob is a bad character, but there was just so many other characters that were more interesting that because he is what he is, that's what sort of made him lame. And if you had even more characters, it would just be this, okay, we have too many. There's too much. Bioware has done too much. And just imagine if it went up to like 18 characters or even 15 characters. It would be like, oh,
goodness, yeah.
Good Lord.
It's like Bioware tend to forget, when you look at the infamous PC Gamer article where they talked about the planet scanning and why it's such a good feature, why getting carpal tunnel is so awesome, and it's like Bioware, it's a difference between optional and compulsory, and a lot of people who like Mass Effect 2 don't understand that a lot of the things in Mass Effect 2 are compulsory. Like, you have to do them. You want to get all your best, you want to get all your upgrades and your armor, your weapons, your characters, the ship and whatnot. You have to do planet scanning. Mass Effect 1, you just put a flag down and went, yeah, it's it. It's done for an optional thing for the Alliance. The Mako, for the vast majority of the part, was optional. No, only for a few select moments in the primary story was it forced upon you, and even then it was done in limited capacity. So people completely forget like the difference between the two. You know, it's like, yeah, the Mako was a bit jank, but it wasn't like BioWare made you do a 6-hour session of like driving the Mako across an entire planet.
Well, at least the Mako made sense. It was the design of the ship. It was the design of the level. Certain levels you had to do that because it was too dangerous to even have a shuttle. So it's like, okay, now you have to drive. There's no other way to do it. It's like, great, thank you. Thank you for the actual explanation why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's that simple. Whereas the best explanations we've got for the events of the suicide mission were Tali gave you some shields because she's friendly. The Thanix cannon came out because Mass Effect 2, you kill the Reaper.
That was Garrus.
Because of Garrus, right. And what was the other one? Hull plating?
Yeah, that was from Jacob.
Jacob, right. So it was like, okay, that was like, these are things that make sense. How you got them didn't make too much sense, but at least they, they said, okay, we should probably get some better guns. It's like, that's a good idea. We should probably get better hull, better shields, maybe faster engines. Like, there's all kinds of things you could think of. Instead, they went the route of, well, Zaid is a badass. We should go help him with his backstory. Oh, we didn't help him with his backstory, but now he's loyal. Like, why?
Yeah.
We've done a few of these retrospective features by now, so you probably know what this one's all about. In this feature, we'll be identifying and examining what we feel are the 3 key elements that made Mass Effect 2 the game that it was. Its 3 greatest strengths that shone through in every aspect of the game and defined every moment of that experience. And if you've played Mass Effect 2, you can probably guess what the first and most obvious element is: the characters. BioWare's best works have always been known for featuring great characters with excellent writing, believable motivations, expert development, and fleshed out backstories. Mass Effect 2's ensemble took everything that we love to see in characters in BioWare games and dialed it all up to 11.
Okay, they didn't dial it up to 11, they just added 12 and said, and said, look at all these characters. Look at, all you really need is, what was the doctor's name? Like, that's the Solarian doc. That was it. Morden was all you...
Actually, not even that. I've pointed this out. I haven't. You don't even need Morden.
Oh, because of the biotic powers.
Yeah, the biotic shield. You know what I mean? So it's just like, we need Morden because he's the only guy who can build a countermeasure. Yeah, we can do a biotic bubble now because it's like, oh, thanks for that, Bioware. Just get rid of that.
It's like, you have Miranda and Jacob, they're biotics. It's like, oh, so they can ward off the Seekers. And why did what's his name? Why did Caden get captured if he's a biotic as well? Did his shield suddenly stop? Like, how did that? So there's all these little problems with the lore when you actually just stop and go, wait a second, if a biotic bubble can do this, and anyone can make a bubble, why didn't they do it? And if you're a biotic and you have this throughout your entire adult life, and you're a soldier or whatever, or an Asari, it's like natural to you. Hey, I could push things with my mind. Why don't I do that against these things coming at me and just make this small oval shield around me and just walk through anything?
You know, it'd be really great is if we had some kind of tank-like thing to be in an enclosed environment to protect us from hostile environments and alien little buggers that want to try and get in there and switch us up.
That really pissed me off because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of humans just going dark, just being wiped out. Yeah, wouldn't there be someone in like a room where it's airtight in space? Like, just like, yeah, they just missed me. They couldn't find me. And then I reported. Like, that never happened. Except for Vitor and a bunch of guys you found on, was it Freedom's Progress? Or, I can't remember. I think it was Freedom's Progress, where, you're going through it. That's where you encounter everyone. And they just happen to be in a bunker or something. It's like, oh, these guys are fine. So the collection methods of the collectors had a few holes in it for this reality to exist. And that's kind of a problem with basic storytelling. You can't have holes in your enemy's method, which has been going on for, 2 years or whatever it was? So,
yeah, and everyone's just ignoring it, It's like, yeah, it's only a couple of human colonies. Let's just ignore the fact that Eden Prime almost got nuked off the face of the earth. completely changed of how the Alliance would protect its colonies.
For 2 years, the Alliance did nothing. It's like, oh, we're going to send out Ashley. Okay, it's like, what? That's it?
That actually adds in another undermining of Mass Effect 1, because when you actually go through the elevator scenes, which we all love, it talks about how colony enrollment has dropped dramatically, and it's like, yeah, because Eden Prime got attacked. It's like, unless there's actual protective means to protect the colonies from external threats, no one would want to go to a threat. That's what Eden Prime did. It's like, and everyone went, yeah, we're just going to go to the Terminus systems now, and it's completely hostile, and we're going to have absolutely bugger all in the way of defenses. In actual fact, we're going to move outside of the Alliance and Council's jurisdiction. Nothing can go wrong here, lads.
And we've had 2 years of just going, hey, maybe we should do something about that. Maybe the Alliance should reach out and send a few ships out, or send maybe a scout ship just to monitor the area, or send some probes out, or do something. It's like, no, we're too busy. We can't.
Also, as well, when Tim was like, humanity isn't drunk, we're at war. It's like, you know how many people died at the Battle of the Citadel? At least 1 million. And that was in a span of a couple of hours. And you're telling me that a couple of 100,000 people have died in 2 years? Like, come on, that's nuts. It's more people died. And what was it? 5 cruisers got destroyed. That's 5,000 people or something. It's like, come on, more people died in that first second. You can't say to me the stakes are high when Omaha Beach just happened moments ago.
Well, it is funny that he's the only one who's actually doing anything, and an extremist group, which is a fine again, the premises of these games are fine. It's the execution and the connection to the previous games that are the huge problem. With retcons, with not explaining things well, with logic that just does not exist. The shuttle sequence, the suicide mission, which we're going to get into. And I'd say about, as we said, as the person's arguing here is the characters. As attractive as they are, you don't need them. You really don't.
Completely optional.
Yeah.
The most important aspect of weaving characters into making them relevant to the plot are completely optional, which is the opposite of what you should be doing.
Yeah.
One might argue that Jacob was a weak link in the cast of characters, and though I won't necessarily disagree with that, it's easy to overlook one relatively forgettable character when you look at all the others that people remember to this day.
Yeah, but why was he forgettable? What was the reason that made him unattractive? To me it was the jump, same with Miranda, the jump from being super friendly to just standoffish when he hit the Normandy 2. Then it was his mission, his loyalty mission, and trying to make him not a black stereotype. I think those were the 3 things. It just screamed this guy has no real motivation and character. When this guy had his own video game based off him, which probably wasn't the best bet because video games on, was it handheld, or I can't remember the exact, was Galaxy.
It was mobile, wasn't it?
It was a mobile game. And the main characters in those games tend to not be very communicative. Miranda was there as well. So he had more story with him if you wanted to explore that. Not as much as, of course, the characters from Mass Effect 1, but they could have worked with all that stuff. And it's just a short, brief sentence. He's like, that's it? It's like, yeah, I used to work for Cerberus, did this, and I was a Corsair. And you're like, oh, okay. He just saved the Citadel or whatever it was. But no big deal. Really bad idea when you have really background stories of characters with really big backgrounds that did big things and just not even bring it up. It's like Garrus, we don't know anything about him. Imagine Garrus just came back. What did you do these past 2 years? Nothing. You're like, oh, okay. But you're still cool. Yeah, I'm a cool guy. He's still Garrus, but it's like, yeah, but he wasn't doing those 2 years of fighting merc gangs on Omega. There's nothing of that. Why would you do that? Why would you waste everyone's? Why would you create extra lore and not incorporate it?
Yeah, I like the way of how Garrus was, because he was at the time he was a CSEC off. It's like the Citadel has been revealed in terms of it's a big giant trap, it's a big giant mass relay. The Keepers are part of the key to this one, and you would have thought a CSEC officer would be given the authority to kind of explore the Citadel bore and be like, hey, let's start digging around this big giant trap because it's Reaper made. It may hold some clues.
That was a big mission in Mass Effect 1 to figure out the Keeper's signal that I think went through every chapter of that game. And you could have totally missed it. And I thought, you know, hey, that would have been a pretty big mission or side mission to do going into the third game. To reveal some sort of secret or to find some new technology or whatever the evidence you wanted. Like, you could have really played with that. Use it as information to make the Council believe in Reapers or whatever. All kinds of things you could have done with that. Nothing. Maybe a higher point score in Mass Effect 3. That was about it. Which is it was another argument for Mass Effect 3. But let's talk about 2 and the characters. Let's see what he has to say about the other characters.
Thane, the dying assassin who constantly wonders about his own morality even as he takes lives. Mordin, the brilliant scientist brimming...
See, Thane I actually enjoyed because he was going to die anyway. So it's like, we could bring the assassin who's kind of cool and the best at what he does. And his reasoning is like, yeah, I'm going to die. It's like, oh, suicide mission. Perfect. Like, that at least makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Grey Warden, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you're going to die in the Blight, so happy trails. You know,
yeah.
Good luck.
And because we're facing an unknown, it would make sense to have a scout or a stealthy ninja master with a gun. Like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And then you discover the threat, and then you say, okay, Tim, our plans have to change. We got to get some real XYZ guys because we know what we have to do. And then he'd be like, okay, Thane, you're in charge of scouting and intel and do your infiltrator stuff. That's awesome. That would, like, just make it logical. Make the reasons why you have these guys practical, and then give them more reasons to stay. Because if not, they're just MacGuffins. And you could argue every single character, I would argue Mordin not so much, but even he becomes a MacGuffin. They are all MacGuffins. That's all it is. They're all MacGuffins. You get them, and then they're on the chip, on the ship. What's next? This guy. Oh, okay. It's like you have your Pokemon, you collect them, and you forget about them. That's Mass Effect 2. As much as you like those Pokemon, as attractive as they are, they're just there to take up space.
With personality, who engineered the genophage and now struggles
No,
with
he
immense
didn't.
guilt.
Yeah,
He modified it.
Yeah.
Like the genophage is like what, centuries old or something?
Pretty old, yeah.
Because it's when the Turians first encountered them. They're the ones that deployed it. So you're talking, like, when was the Rachni War? Was that like 4,000 years ago or something?
No, not that long. Probably several hundred years.
Oh, several hundred years. I may be thinking when the Asari actually discovered the Citadel, actually, which was 4 millennia. Actually, that might be it.
Yeah, but
Either
it was
way,
hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So Mordin wasn't even born then. And
yeah,
his lifespan is like 30, 40 years anyway. So, yeah.
That could have been an interesting dynamic for Mordin as well. Like, he's that old. It's just like, yeah, I've still got some life in me. Short lifespan of Solarians. Great, you know.
Well, they turned him into a tragic hero or a sacrificial lamb or whatever you want to parse that in Mass Effect 3. So, Mordin was the only real character I liked because he had the Seeker Swarm, whatever you call it, the deterrent. And as UDP said, well, it's kind of made irrelevant when Samara's like, yeah, you just use a bubble. It's like, well, why do you need to make this shit? So it makes sense, though, to get a specialist, a doctor or scientist like Okeer or Mordin Solus, say, hey, we got to research xenobiology. Get the xenobiologist. It's like, perfect idea. Let's do that. And unfortunately, he had no plot relevance outside of that armor upgrade or whatever they called it. So, sadly, everyone's a MacGuffin. They're attractive MacGuffins. I'll give them that, but they're still MacGuffins.
Yeah.
Over his actions. Grunt, the bioengineered perfect soldier who finds it hard to fight.
What? Perfect soldier? What? Really?
Perfect. He's not a perfect soldier. I mean, they call him a pure Krogan, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I mean, he could actually has the, like, a kind of Gattaca approach in terms of he's got the best elements of certain Krogan lineages. That would be more effective.
The fact that they had a rebellious Krogan scientist that was smart enough to actually do genetics is pretty awesome. And I thought Okeer would have been a really cool character, but he gets killed, and we get Grunt instead. It's like, oh,
he should have been a kind of counter to Mordin.
Yeah, that would have been
those two.
brilliant to have Morden arguing with Okier, and Morden's like going a mile a minute. Okier's like, "You are a fool. I will crush you." I was like, Okier, can you calm down? We have a minute. Oh, fine. Okay. Like that's the constant joke. Every time we walk in the lab, something breaks.
Yeah, something's broken.
Because Okier's about to kill Morden, and Morden's like stabilizing him with drugs and calming him down.
Find a place for himself with his people and in life at large. Miranda, the gifted biotic with the tortured past who distances herself from connections to keep her pain at bay.
What?
I don't know about that one. I'll just let that slide because it's...
Yep, okay, sure.
She's the Gattaca baby, right? Essentially.
Yeah, basically.
And Legion, and Jack, and Samara, and Joker, and the returning fan favorites Garrus and Tali. And last but not least, the enigmatic and charming Elusive Man, one of the greatest antagonists you'll ever see in a game.
Antagonists? He was helping us.
Sorry, dictionary, please. We need to look up the word antagonist.
Maybe in the third game, but the second game, he brought you back to life because magic. He rebuilt your ship because money.
He just threw that.
Yeah, everything pretty much revolves around Tim. So maybe an anti-hero? I don't...
Yeah, kind of. He's a renegade, but it's like he's not an antagonist in Mass Effect 2. In fact, he's the only reason why... He is literally the reason why the main plot of the Collectors actually happens, because he literally says, stop what you're doing, it's time for Collect. That's what happens.
Yeah. And the concept of Shepard just doing patrolling at the start of the second game is okay, but it has to lead to something. And instead, it just gets cut short. And you're like, oh, now what? Oh, let's bring back Tim. And you're like, oh, okay. Sure, why not? So it started off with a lot of like, oh, that's weird. That's interesting. Oh, that was dramatic. And then Tim comes in, and then you're on the space station, and it gets destroyed. And
yeah, no one tries to reclaim the space station that cured death.
Yeah, we might need that again. It's like, no, Miranda knows it. It's okay. Miranda's good. She's got the secret to death in her brain or something. Like, what?
That could have been an ending for Mass Effect 3 if you saved the Lazarus program. You know? It's like, hey, guys, I'm back.
It's like, is Shepard's brain okay? Yeah, we can rebuild him even better this time. And then, of course, the Citadel DLC, they invented a clone. And Miranda's like, I didn't hear about it. Like, what? It's like, you didn't hear about the clone? You were in charge of the whole project.
Right.
What happened? Miranda, what are you doing with all this money? Did you just give it away to people and they just started cloning Shepard? Like, what? How did this work?
Yeah, I think we said this before, when it's like, when the clone gets control of the Normandy, it's like, Shepard has cybernetics inside, right? So that would be a bit of a giveaway with the lack of cybernetics. Kind of how he got brought back together again. He's the $1 million man, quite literally. Or $1 million woman, if you want to that.
He can do all these amazing feats, although they really downplay that. And I'm not sure why, because your entire body was turned to paste, was atomized, except magically your brain, and that was enough. I don't like brain death occurs within 30 minutes, but frozen brain death in a methane nitrous environment, whatever the hell that planet was it Alkera or whatever. It's like, yeah, your skin would start melting within like 10 minutes or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, but the brain's fine. All right, sure.
It actually reminds me of the game. I'm thinking of the game Soma, where you're basically an imprinted memory of a human inside a machine, and you actually get to look at yourself in the mirror, and you actually realize you are just literally a human body that's just been reanimated through this structural gel, and you just be literally given like a short circuit eyes, basically, Johnny Five Eyes, and you're just like, oh dear Lord, I'm actually a machine. And what you've been seeing previously is just more than a projection of how you see yourself in the real world, because your mind can't handle the fact that you're a machine. And they could have done something like that, like you're actually a kind of Geth hybrid, that's kind of being brought back together again, and that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you see Shepard, but once the illusion's gone, you're like this kind of machine that's just been given vague memories of Shepard.
They tried to pull that card out in Mass Effect 3 when you're on the last space station, and it was like it's too little, too late. Like it's just It's like where was this the start of the second game, right? Where was the self-searching? Where was the who am I? What am I? Am I human? And the constant renegade turning your face into a Terminator. Like that should have been a huge, big thing.
Yeah.
And it's just a cosmetic thing. It's like Tully's not looking at you like, hey, you look like a Geth Shepard. What the hell? Like that's kind of creepy. When people notice that, it's like, oh, those red glowing eyes, Shepard. That's really hot. Like, what?
Yeah, it's like when you go back to the sit down for the first time, it's like, oh, they're describing you as dead, and he's like, yeah, I was only mostly dead, but I got better. It's like, oh, come on. They just wave it off as a joke, and you're just like, no. Just no.
As much as I love that because my favorite movie of all time is The Princess Bride, I was like, okay, yeah, that's funny and cute, and I got the reference, but we're in the future. We have cybernetics, we have cloning, we have all this tech. I think the CSEC officer would be like, okay, I'm going to put you in a cell, and we're going to get a lot of people, bureaucrats, scientists, spec, all these guys that are specialists. And we're going to look at you for a good few days. Okay, so just sit tight.
That could have been part of the game. Like you come back to the Citadel, you get arrested, and you have to bust yourself out. And that's what makes you go on the renegade path in terms of, you become the renegade because the Citadel's going, no, we're going to probe you for like the next 6 years.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, no, I need to do this now.
And what really pissed me off was that everyone knows your ship is flagged as Cerberus. Like everyone knows it. And the Citadel is like, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's just a ship. It's docking. It's not doing anything. It's like, wait a second. This is the avowed enemy of the Citadel. What are you doing?
Yeah, this is like a Nazi ship turning up to port in the UK 5 years after World War II ended. Those kind of going, should we do something? It's kind of a giveaway.
It's just this bizarre series of events where they just sort of just push everything under the rug. It's like, oh, no. We gotta have our talk with Anderson. We gotta go to the. It's like, what? No. I've been gone for 2 years. Things have changed. I am now an enemy of the state. Nope.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
I'm good.
Not to mention Shepard himself, or herself, of course. Each character was...
Okay, Shepard as a character is a brick. There's really not much to their character. They're stoic. They're a soldier. And they... I don't know.
It's a brick with googly eyes that has a smiley or frowny face attached to it. And those are interchangeable. That's it.
With the range that Mark Meer and Jennifer Hale have, like they can do so much. And they just do they're basically calling in their lines at every shot because the tone is straight. They play the straight man at every chance. Sometimes they get a little goofy. With Mass Effect 2, there's a little jokes on the Citadel and all that crap. We get it. But they did not work with the soldier stereotype very well. And you could play any Call of Duty, you can play any other war-style games. Like, oh, okay, that's how soldiers might sound. That's how soldiers might act, whether they're in current day or 200 years from now. And Shepard is kind of just this quiet, stoic dude, doesn't say much, and then he opens his mouth. It's like, I need to do this. And everyone's like, whoa, we got to listen to you. It's like, what? Why? He's not very enthusiastic. He's not very domineering. Even his renegade options are pretty straightforward. Like, there's nothing interestingly intimidating about him or her.
It's like, we need Shepard. He's a great leader. Hi, guys. I'm on a recruitment right now, and you want to sign these forms, and you'll be part of the team. It'll be that's the recruitment process right there.
It's like, what? A suicide mission? Sign me up. Who are you? I'm a master thief who hates violence. No problem. Let's go on. It's like, why are you coming? Like, what would... This takes no... Like, even... What's her name would try to get out of it. Kasumi would be like, oh, you helped me... Yeah, she'd help me Thanks, Shep, for helping me out with my backstory with my ex-lover. Bada bada ba. Oh, we're gonna do what through an unheard of relay? We're gonna do what with an alien species? We're gonna take off all this, do all this other crap. You're like, oh, yeah, I bet you didn't sign up for any of this.
That was in the small print. You should have read it. Gotcha.
And he did this 12 times.
Expertly written and brought to life with standout performances from a star-studded cast. Each character had believable backstories and pasts, which contextualized their personalities and their motivations expertly.
Jacob just was a guy who joined Cerberus for one mission, and then he's part of Cerberus. You're like, okay, Jacob, you're a really nice guy. What are you doing here? I don't know. With the stuff that would happen would not permit Jacob to be Jacob. Like, Jacob is an upstanding guy. He's a nice guy. If he got a whiff of Cerberus, what it does, which I'm sure he did, he wouldn't be there. It just doesn't mesh well with his character. Garrus had a believable backstory. Morden, well done character. Thane, okay, I'll give him a pass. He's an alien. Jack, no. Jack is just too unbelievable. The way she looks, her history, they could have done just a few more lines of dialogue to make it make more sense. And for God's sakes, give her some spaceman clothes. For God's sakes.
Yeah. Exposure to a vacuum while being bare skinned is not really good. If you're intense cold.
Yeah, we get that you're in a prison and it's a maximum security and there's no need for that, but once you're out of that prison, get some clothes on.
Oh, right. So speaking of which as well, it's like, Jack's supposed to be a really powerful biotic, but biotics are only really powerful if they have the implant. It's like, did nobody ever bother to think of removing the implant that makes her all powerful? Just saying.
No, we'll just put her in cryo sleep and just forget about it.
It would have been interesting if, let's say, she was like a living weapon that you would just deploy on a planet just to terrorize a population. That'd be interesting.
Right, because her introduction cutscene, she just punches through 3 or 4 Ymir mechs.
Yeah.
Like, just boom. And then it's like, oh, she has a gun now. I was like, what do you need a gun for? You can punch things to death.
Yeah. So you have no shields, no armor, and you're just punching things through the sheer power of cinematics. Why do we need anyone else?
Yeah, it's the cutscene power to the max trope, but doesn't imagine having her and Grunt like just being the vanguard while you're like sitting back going, okay, do I snipe or I just sit back and wait for them to clean up? Because they'd be just punching the shit out of everything.
There's just paste on the wall where people were. Need a dustbuster for that.
Okay, we're done. Samara's kind of like she's holy warrior, paladin on a sacred mission. It's like, okay, we get it. There's lots of backstory with her, lots of history. She's freaking 1,000 years old almost. Other characters.
We got Tali, but Tali's just awesome in general. So
yeah, she's probably the best fleshed out character. So that's kind of, she represents her whole species, her whole culture. That's what you do with characters. You introduce a character who's an alien, and they explain the alien species. They did it with Garrus. They did it with Rex. They did it with Tali. They did it with Liara. That's it. That's what you need.
Each character had dedicated loyalty missions of their own, which were not only excellently designed side quests that could radically change the course of the main narrative, but they added immense depth to the character.
They did not radically change the main narrative, okay? They were optional. You didn't have to do them. It was just, you do them or you don't.
And then what happened was just that they ended up in a body bag or not. And that's it.
That's it. Yeah, you don't need to get these things. You don't need to do these things. They just do their job better for whatever dumb logical reason that we can't make sense of. You know, Miranda is suddenly now more focused that she has a sister, or you did not introduce her to your sister. The result's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been like, because let's say we're going down the path of Shepard's a Spectre and doing things by himself. Miranda's an ex-Cerberus agent. Now Cerberus are hunting her. That would make her distracted if, let's say, they're targeting her family
And
in that way.
and she had some like emotional scarring, and she was always staying, and she was always literally staying in her room and never coming out because she's like, this is where I belong. I'm an administrator. I don't like experiments. And she has a big long list of experiments that were done to her. It's like, listen, Miranda, you're the strongest, smartest, most powerful person I have on board here. You need to get out of your shell. I understand you have a I understand you have a sister, blah, blah, blah. And then she breaks out of her shell. Now she's more confident. Like, that would have made sense, at least within her. Kind of like the opposite of Jack, where Jack just hates everything, so she wouldn't give a crap. So if there's a scenario in the suicide mission where Jack has to save someone, and you didn't calm her down or make her be a team player, she just disregards Miranda. She's like, forget that cheerleader. I'm not going to help her. Like, if they had that in the suicide mission, then I'd be like, bravo, you're actually paying attention to the character and what could have happened. Now, the problem with that is still, it's an unknown. Like, you couldn't foresee that this scenario would have happened with Jack. Like, it would be, oh yeah, well, if she's by herself or she sees like one of her teammates in trouble, she wouldn't go help. It's like, well, if Shepard was there, and he's always there, he'd order someone to go get them if Jack wasn't around or whoever. Or he'd order Jack to do it. And Jack would be like, okay, fine. Because she respects Shepard. So it's like, okay, it's either Shepard's there and everyone trusts him or her, and they'll do whatever he says, or there's some external factors outside of Shepard that have to be dealt with. And they never dealt with any of them. Aside from, like, say, Tali and her, she's concerned about this or that, but again, nothing to do with the mission. So
I would have I mentioned this before, but it's like if Miranda was, let's say, a rescuee from the Collectors, and the Collectors did experiments on her, so when you start bringing her on Collector missions, she's like almost a jittering wreck because of all the flashbacks that she'll be remembering.
Right.
But obviously, if you don't take her on missions, then she'll be kind of like demanding information, but she'll be a jittering wreck in her bedroom, or her office or whatever you want to call it, so yeah, there'd be something there. You need to have that kind of emotional, you need to make the people connected to the
right, which would force the player to say, oh, I gotta take this character out now because of maybe there's an enthusiasm system, like their mood system, so you have to get their mood in high spirits for them to open up, to talk. Like, I don't know, do any mechanic you like, but give them a reason to go on missions and break them out of their shell, whatever's holding them back, as a person that we can connect with. Like Garrus, he's got a huge stick up his ass. That's kind of the joke with Joker. How do you fix that? Well, you have him kill the guy he really hates. That makes sense. However, it has nothing to do with him being a badass and being a sniper and being a team leader. He's already loyal. He's the only guy. You are the only person in the whole galaxy he respects. By any stretch of the means, any stretch of the imagination, he believes you. He would do anything for you. Would he screw up and take a rocket to the face randomly? Really? Like, why does not doing his loyalty mission cause the door to jam? How does that make any sense? Like, these little problems. There's little problems all throughout the story that anyone goes like, this does not make sense. Why did it work out this way? So characters are good, but they're not connecting with the main plot. They're not connecting with the suicide mission, which is the whole point of the game.
That they focused on as well. It was exactly because of the deep bonds and connections we formed with each and every one of these characters that Mass Effect 2's ending had the sort of impact that it did. And its ending, the spectacular suicide mission, is the second element that we're going to talk about. It deviates a bit from...
Okay, so the first element was characters. And as we said, they're all replaceable. They're all MacGuffins. That's not what makes a good story. It makes an interesting side story.
Yeah, it is quite literally just the best comparison I could ever make is one of Dick Francis' books called Field of 13, where it's just literally a 13 independent stories that aren't connected to whatever. It's just Like, it's just a random collection of short stories that the same character, that the same protagonist just happens to be in the same room as them.
Yeah, it's like watching was it the first or is it the second Mad Max movie where Mad Max is just there, and
Yeah.
and the stories around him, all the characters around him are what's interesting. So, whereas in the first game, Shepard was doing all the things, he was leading the charge, he was actively progressing or chasing after Saren. Whereas in Mass Effect 2, Tim is leading the charge. You're just his pawn. That's what you're like, okay, I need to keep building the team. Why is that, Tim? Do we get to ask that about you? We get to ask what's going. Nope. Just keep building the team.
Yeah, that's the removal of Shepard's agency. Of Shepard's supposed to be a Spectre, they're capable of doing whatever they want to do. They can recruit whoever they want as part of their team. And now it's just gone to, no, Tim's doing it. Tim's sorting it all out for you. Don't you worry your pretty little casual head. You poor little baby.
That should have been reversed. Shepard should have been focusing on the main plot, and Tim should have been explaining, okay, now we need to get this guy for this mission because he's a specialist to solve this problem, to get past this plot point. And that's the only thing that Morden did that was necessary for the plot to progress. And after that, he's throwaway, as logical as that Seeker Swarm thing was. So if they did that with every character, be like, oh, that's why we need Tali. Because Tali wasn't even part of the roster. She was just like, oh, I wasn't expecting Tali. It's like...
Sorry. You know the first mission that you do with Tim or Miranda and Jacob? You know, one where you find it's like, when Miranda looks at the thing, she goes, it's a collector. It's like, how do you know that? No one knows what they look like. It's just like, just... Do you what? Why do you know everything, woman? You know, did you read the script ahead of time?
Yeah, like I would imagine that Tim and the Shadow Broker would know, and they're sort of holding that information back. But the first thing that Tim would do would be like, okay, Miranda, there's these things called collectors. We think they're collecting humans, but we don't have any evidence yet. Can you go figure that out? And it's like, well, I can't do it alone. Well, you better get the best. It's like, well, get Shepard. He's a stain on the ground, sir. We can't use him. It's like, well, figure it out. It's like, I need some resources then. It's like, what?
Oh, Miranda could have been like a double agent. Like, yeah, there's so many ways that they could have done Miranda. Like, she's posing as certain things. But actual fact, she's loyal to Cerberus. But like, there's ways that they could have done. Then obviously you can break it down in terms of you recruit her, like you actually make her defect. Just things like that would have been interesting. Like, if you don't make a defect, she actually hinders you because she wants the technology of the collectors. And,
When she starts off, you have to go recruit her, even though she defected from Cerberus. But it's all this plot by Tim, so to make Shepard believe and trust in Miranda because she's like anti-Cerberus. Then you try to get her back on board, and she's like, fine, whatever. And then you do through a loyalty mission where it's like, okay, maybe Cerberus isn't that bad. And then at the end, you find out, no, she was all with Cerberus the entire time. Would have been fine. Would have worked. Yeah. And Jacob could have been the loyalist. He could have been the actual person who's like pro Cerberus. He's like, yeah, you know what? They were shady. They still are, but they're the best we got. The Alliance isn't doing anything. No one cares. Like, he would have been the perfect fit because he had the backstory for it. He had the previous game where he worked with them. And be like, okay, great. This works. Like, that would have been great.
From how we usually identify games' best elements in these features, in terms of how it's not something that permeates throughout the entire game, but it's instead a particular section of the game. But the suicide mission is that good. From the moment you're handed your main mission by the Elusive Man, Mass Effect 2 makes it clear that the stakes are high. The mission you're on is one that lives up to its name. It is, in all likeliness, a one-way ticket, and everyone, literally everyone, can die. Whether that's the...
You have to go out of your way to get everyone killed, including Shepard. You literally have to try to do it. You know, it's like, if you just play for it normally, most of the people will survive. Like, you're going to do some loyalty missions, like people are going to do some loyalties and what have you, and going to do some quests. So people are going to survive, but you have to be actively trying to ruin your experience to get Shepard killed.
Yeah, there would have to be some sort of indicator, like a progress bar or a potential projection saying, okay, you know what? We haven't done everything we could. We think we have about a 60% chance of success, You still sure you want to go through with this, Shepard? He's like, yeah, do it, go, go, go. And it's like, one of the nacelles off the Normandy's breaks off, but you get through, but you're just totally wrecked. Like you would have to have more variation, but they didn't have time to do that. They didn't have time to develop the plot with the necessary choices. It was all about Pokemon. It was just get this character. And that was it. That's the whole game. Get this character, see their backstory. Get this character, see their loyalty mission, whatever. Okay, I guess, but not the focus of the game. If the focus of the game was a suicide mission, where is that? There, it's not there. It literally is not there. It's just, hey, you have Tali now. If you did her loyalty mission, she'll survive. You're like, why? What? How does Legion become more loyal to you after you make him? Okay, there's the argument that maybe you gave him the upgrades. Was that the second game or the third? No, it was the third game. Sorry, maybe he becomes more efficient because you kill off the heretics, or something. Like there has to be some sort of technological explanation for that choice you make. You could argue because he is software, so it's like, oh, I could actually rewrite Legion to some capacity or kill off some of his processes. But still, he is software. He would hack anything faster than any organic could. So, and what the hell does Tali know about hacking into the collector's security system?
Yeah. By the way, everyone just activates, like, is that like Edie's plot point? Is like, was this like a previous precursor to Sam? You just kind of go, Edie, do your Edie thing, and I can access everything. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me download all this data about proteins I can access. It's just like, how do you know the language?
Yeah, if Edie was like her suite of Reaper whatever was like given to the hacker on the suicide mission to go through the vents, they'd be like, oh, now they have all this extra technology to do the job. They just have to manually do it. You're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. But they never connected those. Like, there's so many ways to fix this story with what they actually wrote, but they never connected the dots. They never connected the lore with the plot points or the hurdles. And it's so obvious. You could do a dozen different things to make that work, but they didn't because they had to get loyalty missions working, and that was it.
Secondary characters in the Normandy's crew, or the main characters you've developed your bonds with throughout the course of the game, or hell, even Commander Shepard. Decisions made throughout the game, both big and small, come back to rear the
What was that about Commander Shepard? What the hell is he talking about?
likeliness, a one-way ticket, and everyone, literally everyone, can die. Whether that's the secondary characters in the Normandy's crew, or the main characters you've developed your bonds with throughout the course of the game, or hell, even Commander Shepard.
Yeah, as you said, in order to get the worst ending, you have to literally not play the game. Just go through the main plot points and do nothing. All the messages, all the notifications, all the requests to talk to you, it's like just ignore everything. Skip 90% of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, you will get the worst ending, that's true.
Decisions made throughout the game, both big and small, come back to rear their heads during Mass Effect 2's final act. From who you sided with when two of your teammates butted heads, to which character...
Which there's only
which
two
you
of.
could resolve. You could resolve if you have enough Paragon or Renegade points, because reason.
There should have been so many of those. There should have been as many, like 24. If there's 12 characters, double it. Like just these crazy arguments, because you're on a ship where everyone's going to die. I think they'd be a little high strung. Yeah, they'd be a little itchy. they break into fights. Grunt especially. Grunt is like, I've just been born. I'm going to die. What? Samara would be chill as hell because she's Samara. Thane would be chill.
Do you think Joker would be okay with that? Because he's like, I'm not going to lose another Normandy. Right, Joker, we're going on the suicide mission. That usually involves us all dying, right? And us not getting the... Because, it's not good.
The whole going through the relay was the dumbest part of this whole thing. It's like, hey, let's go through this alien technology that no one's tested, no one's approved of, There's no standards in place. There's no, like, you don't have any protocols to how to open a relay. Like, that would have been nice to get, like, hey, can we hire someone who knows relays to just research this thing for the start, and then by the time we come back, their project will finish, and they'll give us, and we're constantly researching it. Like, wouldn't that make sense? And then they say, hey, you know what? You're hunting the collectors, right? Well, we saw their ship like a few thousand times coming in and out like every day. Just thought you might want to know if you're hunting them down. Like, you would get the specialist to do the specialist task of opening a door. And no one, I'm going to open it for the first time ever, and I'm just going to run right through it. I'm not even going to think what's on the other side. It's like, why?
I like the way the Omega 4 relays like orange. It's like, no, they're all supposed to be glowing blue. And then, of course, got the plot hole of if any Reaper can just basically modify a relay, then why didn't Sovereign just do that like 400 years ago when it first activated? Like, it could have gone to the Widow Nebula, latched itself onto the Widow mass relay, modified it so no little bugger can get in, and just hit the Citadel directly, or let everyone die in a couple of 100 years of starvation.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and plus as well, there's no corresponding relay for the Omega 4 relay. There's none there. So where does it go? You can't, that just doesn't work. It breaks. It just breaks, it can't work.
How do you get back? We don't know.
But you just jumped to FTL, which means that you could just get there to FTL anyway. You didn't need the Omega 4 relay.
There's all kinds of, like, the IFF was another big weird thing. It's like, oh, there's now a component to relays that you need in order to use them. Oh, that's nice to have. It just so happens to be in another Reaper. Oh, that's not a big giant hole in the plot. That's not this giant problem that, hey, do the Reapers exist? Well, there's one right there.
Take pictures,
Yeah, you think? Click, click. Hey, Citadel people, look what I got. Look where I've been.
Dumped that on the table. Like,
Here's loyalty missions you did, to how your relationships with each of them have developed, to which characters you assigned to specific tasks during the mission, to even what parts of the Normandy you upgraded. And it's not an exaggeration to say that literally every single one of these is a life and death decision. One wrong move means the death of someone you love from this incredibly strong cast of characters. Shepard's speech to the Normandy crew as you prepare to venture deep into the Collector base, a speech that you craft yourself, is yet another moment that I'll never forget.
Really? I'm trying to remember it. I'm just like thinking, what was the speeches are so corny. The only one I really remember was the third game, the speech near the end, because it was just so over the top.
The one where you have the random Alliance soldier just creeping in. It's like, hey, I'm just here, guys.
You've all experienced pain, suffering, and loss. It's like, yeah, thank you, humanity. That's everyone on the planet. But the first one, I remember when you're trying to give a rousing speech and you're telling your crew, the odds are against us. We're going after Sarah. And like, that was rousing because you were just some guy who came onto the mission and now all of a sudden the captain's gone and you're in charge now. Everyone's like, who is this guy? Like, that makes sense. It's like, I got to give a speech. I got people to get behind me. That was beautiful. And you had like those 3 options and 3 options each. So it was like basically 9 sentences you could have said differently, I think, or was it 6 sentences? Yeah, it was a big, like, that was cool. And the music was behind you and all that, all the camera angles, all that special stuff. Like, that was memorable. Mass Effect 1 was memorable for many reasons. That was one of them for me. Mass Effect 2, you're on this platform in the middle of this enemy ship base thing, whatever. Yeah, the base, and it's just no one's hunting you down. There's a big room, all quiet. And it's
Seeker swarming the hell out of you right now because you just magically forgot about those.
And you could just say, "Screw the speech, let's go do this," and that's it. Like, you could just skip the entire thing. I hadn't crafted, or none. Or just say, "Yeah, forget it. We'll just go do this thing." Why would you need a speech when they're on the mission with you? They're not in a bunker. They're not in a foxhole.
You already had the speech before you did the suit when you actually crash landed, don't you?
You had
like
speech
number 2.
You're at the conference room. Yeah, you get to do it there. It's like we're gonna give it to the man. Like that was a good speech.
It's like he had two A4 pieces of paper. It's like, sorry guys, I forgot to turn it over. There's a little bit more I had to say.
It's like we need a second one. It's like, why do we need a second speech? They're with you. They've gone this far. They're standing around. Miranda's like, maybe you should give them another speech. It's like, I guess. I already kind of gave it. Like, I don't have anything left for it.
You would have thought the whole loyalty aspect would be kind of going, like when you're about to go through the Omega 4, like everyone would be like going insane who isn't loyal. Like,
oh my gosh!
We're doing what? I just wanted to study botany.
And then Thane gets impaled by a girder. Right? It's like, whoa. Yeah. Thane, what are you doing in the engine core?
The suicide mission has one notable issue, namely the Huma Reaper fight at the end, which is
one notable issue. One.
Oh, it's a big one.
This is what the brilliant enemy of billions of euros old AI have figured out. They gotta put gelatinous melted down species and use these, I don't know, this gel for something to put into a 400 I think I measured it at 200 meter high cyborg. I guess technically it's a cyborg with it's organic and inorganic, with having multiple eyes and trying to be King Kong. Like, it's just this dumb idea.
Yeah.
I mean, fine, you want to have it in there, but don't have it start swinging its arms.
Once again, this actually added in the whole thing of Bioware, because everyone complained about this, and rightfully so, but then Mass Effect 3 rolls, and it's like, well, we're not going to have any boss fights whatsoever. It's like, no, it's not that boss fights are bad, it's just that you did them really badly. It's just, you just don't get it, Bioware. It's like, oh, we'll remove it. It's like, oh, it's gone. It's like some really angry chef that is like, the steak's a little bit too, oh, you have no steak for you.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole... what is the commander or the collector general, whatever that guy was in charge, like that was the conduit through which, and I don't know why he was a conduit, but that was the special power
that adds in another plot hole with Sovereign. Like Sovereign kind of going, hey guys, ring, yeah, ain't working. Citadel ain't working. What? Yeah, it's not working. You have to go the other way. I'm just going to hang back a little bit. And that's it. That's all what Sovereign would have to have done. There was no reason for Sovereign to do anything like that.
Yeah, he couldn't take over the minds of the collector or surround the collectors, the keepers. You know, even though they were already mind controlled, it's like what was stopping you? Like all these things start popping up. If this was the power of Harbinger, was Harbinger the special organic Reaper that controlled organics, and Sovereign was just like the Geth so much? Like what was going on there? All these questions start popping up. You're like,
Just imagine the keeper just going, assuming direct control. It's like,
yeah, I love that comment by Ego Dreamer. Like a human Reaper, Sovereign's like, what the hell is this shit? I didn't sign up for this. Like, what? This is not our plan. We just wanted to come here and eat everyone. We didn't want to make anything. I'm not a organic species. Like, what?
has proved divisive among fans over the years, but it's one blip in 2 hours of excellence. It's an excellent conclusion to an excellent game, one of the greatest closing acts to a memorable journey.
It was, because of the number of variables, it was the most illogical sequence of events. If you play it with full loyalty and without, like, just 0% completion, just as much as you can get done as quickly as possible, it makes no sense. Why does the fire team leader get hit by a rocket? Because the door didn't close on time.
Why were the collectors using rockets in the first place
Yeah,
when they've got particle beam?
all these things start happening, and you're just like, okay. The thing that made sense to some capacity was the biotic bubble, but even that was flawed because all of a sudden we have another cure against the Seeker Swarms, or sorry, not a cure, a solution, because the other solution was just a deterrent. It wasn't a cure. It was just like, hey, they'll just ignore you. You're like, okay. So now they won't ignore me because there's more of them? Really? Okay. What's our next problem? Oh, we just need a bubble. It's like, okay. But now Samara is now supercharged. Her endurance is now amazing. Same with Jack, because she almost killed a guy she remembered from her childhood. It's like, okay, sure. Maybe with Samara, she actually absorbed a power from her dead daughter, like because her power is Reeve, where you actually suck out the life force, which doesn't make too much sense because that should have been Morin's power, not hers.
Yeah, I think you kind of got the things a little bit mixed around there.
I think so, yeah. So there's some potential explanation for it, but it's never really addressed. So that everything else makes no sense. Like send Morden back with the colonists, or not the colonists, with your ship. It's like, okay, why don't you send the fire team leader? He's the guy who knows how to organize people. Morden would be like, I can really treat that wound, as opposed to I can really organize people to run in a certain fashion and stay behind me and follow him. Like, it's not to say Morden couldn't do some of that stuff, but that's not why he's there. That's not his specialty. That's why we have the fire team guy, so everyone follows him. He leads the charge. You expect some logic to be present, or no, sorry, not logic. Not say logic wasn't present, but the logic make any goddamn sense. Like, you could have the most biggest syllogism of like, okay, Tali needs to go on her loyalty mission so she can produce shields. Therefore, when I produce shields, Thane won't get hit in two with a 2x4, whatever the girder was. It's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. As dumb as the first part, loyalty mission equals shields. You have the shields now. You could protect against fire. Great, makes sense. We got you.
Yeah, the equipment's tied into you actually get something out of the quest line rather than experiencing some credits.
Right. But with Garrus, okay, Garrus kills or doesn't kill the guy he wants to kill, therefore he doesn't get hit by a missile. Oh, he's like, wait a second. I understand the logical connection. It makes no sense, though. Like, this causes this. It's like, great, yeah, following you, but how? How does that work? So there's a lot of problems with the loyalty mission, and they could have written it so it wasn't this dumb. They could have written the whole story so it wasn't that dumb. Like the hole plating. Oh, it's eating through our hull. It's like, well, there's there's huge holes in our cargo bay now. I don't think the upgrade did anything. Unless if they did attack, it actually destroyed the entire cargo bay. Like, that would have been like, okay, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that thing would be like vented to space wherever you go. So, and what's it now? If things are open, because Mass Effect fields don't stop physical objects, like going at lower speeds, I should say. Anyone who's left in there and that thing goes to FTL, they're going to get like, whoa, out of there.
Right, and at the ending, we see Shepard walking around in the cargo bay with all these holes, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not how Mass Effect fields work. It's like, now there's shields from Star Trek. It's like, okay, why? When? Like, there's all this crap that ends up happening in the suicide mission. Like, even the ending sequence is just like bad on top of bad on top of bad. They did it purely for the dramatic effect. And that's why people like it, because it's explosive and it's action-packed and your choices matter. Yeah, they matter. They just don't make a lick of sense.
I wouldn't even say that they matter, really. It's just you get loads of choices, but the outcome's always going to be this, pretty much. Whatever they're going to do. It's like Bioware are good at choices, but they're not good at consequences, because they always seem to have this routine of if you can't be asked to do it, then you'll get punished for it. But when you get to the end and you have given a fork in the road, it'll still oval back around together, regardless of what you do. It's not like other games where you have to make a choice between A or B. It's like, no, it just depends on whether or not you can be bothered to actually complete the side quests. That's it.
Yeah. And honestly, all the side quests do is make the mission be more efficient, meaning people don't die.
Yeah.
That's it. The ending still occurs, whether you blow up the base or not. Oh, you get a red explosion, or you get a blue explosion. And for some reason, Tim's mood planet is a different color. That's the ending.
You see, that would be interesting. I'd say Tim was also studying the planet. Like, I don't know, like if you ever go through the main screen of Mass Effect 2, you actually see that the collectors are observing that star. I think you actually see like a blue glow coming off it. If Tim was around a star that had that kind of glow hue coming off of it, and he was studying it as well, then he'd be like, oh great, and then the Shadow Broker would be studying. So it's a phenomenon that's starting to expand outwards. It's like, why are the collectors doing this? Like the collectors have an interest in you can actually have, why the collectors attacking certain colonies, because these are colonies around wherever this thing has been affected by. So and the harvesting for them, for those there's a specific target that you can go for now. Yeah, something like that.
That would have been really good foreshadowing with the dark energy that popped up in Tali's loyalty mission. That it was her recruitment mission that would have lent to the next. Like it's another mystery that we learn, not through the Reapers, because the Reapers are they hate us. So they're not going to reveal anything.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, Shepard, yeah, we hate you. It would be like, oh no, we figured this out ourselves. And it's another mystery that could have led into the next game. So you're like, oh wow, not only is there the culmination of all our choices, there's still a mystery of what the Reapers are really doing, because that whole human Reaper bullshit made no goddamn sense.
Yeah. See, if the human Reaper thing was like an actual hive mind in terms of it's just human brain power, but mixed in with Reaper technology to make a kind of super biomechanical computer to try and understand this problem. That's all what the collectors were capable of building. That would have been made more sense, rather than, oh no, they actually make a Reaper. It's like the Reapers wouldn't leave something that behind. It's like you wouldn't leave your mobile construction vehicle in the hand right next door to the enemy. The Reapers don't operate that way. They're very safe.
It makes good on all the promises Mass Effect 2 makes in terms of its high stakes, in terms of its choice and consequence mechanics, and it delivers a thrilling, unforgettable conclusion.
Thrilling, yes. Choice and consequences, not so much.
And now we come to Mass Effect 2's third key ingredient, which, unlike the first two, is less about the story and storytelling and more about how it plays.
Oh boy, here we go.
The game's laser-sharp focus.
Laser-sharp focus. Oh. The amazing level design of getting stuck on every level as a Vanguard. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
When it launched, Mass Effect 2 received some criticism from a section of its player base over its streamlined nature. It pared back the RPG mechanics of the first game heavily and delivered a more action-oriented cover shooting experience. In retrospect, though, that's exactly what made the game so good.
If you just get rid of 70% of all the RPG mechanics, it's going to make it better. It's going to make it so much better for all those fans out there. Really? Okay. I mean, they could have made the RPG mechanics from the first game more understandable, more clear to understand what you're upgrading. But I would want more powers. I want more things to put my points into. I want to make choices in my character stat screen of what to upgrade. I would have loved to have seen a cutscene of Shepard actually working, I put points into assault rifling or whatever. Boom! All of a sudden, I have a cutscene of him practicing at the shooting range or whatever. Stuff like little bits of detail to show off that you're actually doing something and getting better at it, and it's not just what is it? Everyone had 4 power up.
Yeah,
it was
Shepard had 5. Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, it was like this is not customization. This is just, do you want full power in 2 and partially in other 2, or do you want full power in 3 and one little blip in 1? It's like, this is...
For example, the whole mention of retraining, it's like Shepard's just come back from the dead or is being grievously wounded, whatever you want to call it, which have Shepard actually go through a training montage. It's like if they're a biotic, they could talk to Miranda or Samara for help. If you want to talk, if you're a soldier class, then talk to Jacob. There's all these characters. You have all these characters, and it's like Shepard's just kind of going, "No, I'm just going to eat a protein bar," and then, whoa, I'm back in there, lads.
It's like your body's totally fine. It's like you were splatted onto the planet. You don't have a body to be fine. They gave you a new one. You might have to do a little bit of cardio. You might have to learn to flex over. Like your body would just be like. When I saw him get off that table, I'm like, really? Wow, that's amazing.
I love the way they keep him fully clothed as well in boots. He's not like in a hospital garment or anything like that.
Yeah. Standard Cerberus gear. It's like, yeah, just put it on him. Okay.
At least with Dead Space 2, they did that opening with you coming out of the insane asylum. That was cool. But this, oh look, all my gear's here. Marvelous.
And
it's
and I know
still working.
Yeah, and I know that a gun needs a thermal clip because they just like drilled that into his brain when he was sleeping for whatever how many years. It's like, okay.
Miranda just whispered to it in his subconscious. Thermal clip.
Guns work this way now. And there's an ejection button to pop the clip. It's like, what? Why? You never had to do that before, Miranda. What are you telling me?
What happened to my frictionless material Spectre rifle?
Well, you know what? Someone reinvented the gun. It's like, but it was perfect. It did everything I wanted a gun to do.
It's like, what happened to my radioactive rounds? Well, because you're a soldier class, you're not allowed to. What? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm a goddamn Spectre. I can do whatever I want.
What happened to Omnigel? Oh yeah, that was banned. What? the entire economy of nanopaste is just totally thrown away in 2 years? Really? The galaxy over? Yeah, we got rid of that. It's like, oh.
You see, this would have actually been interesting if they would have, let's say, because they realized the idea of Reaper attack and how Reapers could just control every system, and they started to compartmentalize their software. They kind of went, no, we need to separate these things, because that way if the Reapers do try to hack things, they can only get so far. They have to manually get to those locations. That would have made more sense.
Yeah, if they want to redesign how doors locks work so that Omnigel is no longer a thing, redesign the doors. Don't redesign the concept of Omnigel. Omnigel was a fine idea. You need resources to make something, and Omnigel is kind of like this nanopaste concept. It's very, very well known throughout science fiction. You have a futuristic microscopic element or molecule that can be converted into any kind of other material, whether it's a plastic or a metal, and it's all purpose. It's just ready to go, military grade. You can do all sorts of cool things with it. Worked great. Worked fine. Got to get rid of inventory? Just turn it into nanopaste. Boom.
Yeah, it's like what happened to the abilities of like electronics and decryption. Like that gave Tali and who else was it now? Like Garrus, Leo, and
Caden.
Did Caden have it? Yeah, Caden had it. It's like those were kind of like your thief elements to it, but the soldier had the ability to use the Omnigel to access other materials if they failed. So there was always a way out, but obviously you needed the supply. So it was, if you failed the minigame, I played it on PC, so the minigame was obviously a lot better. I know the Simon Says button mashing from the Xbox 361 was not exactly well received, so I can understand that. But at least it was something, And they just removed, like, what's Tali now? She's just a Quarian with a submachine gun that can use a drone every now and then and can hack an aim. Like, that's all what she's good for.
Yeah, I remember always having Caden or Tali with me on every Mass Effect mission because they were going to come across something that only they could open. And I wasn't playing as a engineer or a sentinel, so it's like, okay, made sense. That's why you differentiate your classes. That's why you have classes.
What was the point in the class-based system if everybody feels exactly the same?
Yeah. And you could only equip, if you're a Vanguard, a shotgun or a pistol. If you're an infiltrator, you can only equip a sniper rifle or a pistol.
Yeah, at least with Mass Effect 1 New Game Plus, you could actually equip, like, you could put points into assault rifle to make it better. But at least you had an assault rifle there with you just in case.
Yeah, everyone had the standard loadout. It's like, yeah, these are really small guns that snap off your back. Why not? That's cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You have an arsenal on your back. You're like, how do you want to kill this guy? It's like, I have 4 options. I don't know. If you run out of ammo for one, don't worry. Just switch to another one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. If you overheat, that was the whole point. That was like, oh, I have to
Yeah.
wait 3 seconds. I don't have time to wait. Boom, shotgun time. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, because as well though, that was actually a good mechanic of the hacking ability that you could make enemies' weapons get jammed, so they'd be like, "Oh wait, I can't." Whereas this one, it's just like, "Oh, you just remove that because of thermal clips." You're just like, "Oh, like what?" Like it's still an electronic piece of equipment. You still be able to hack it. You know, it just imagine like imagine all the heat sinks just going ding 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 ding. You know, or making the weapon explode or something, like just blow it up in their face. I know we're getting into cyberpunk levels of thinking here, but it was available in Mass Effect 1. Why did they remove it? It worked fine.
Can't do that. Can't have fun with your powers anymore. You have to have the engineer class be drone based, I guess.
Yeah, the Omni drone. That is. I would have actually liked it if it was the actual proper drone.
Yeah.
You know, that followed you around. It like came off your back or something. Just cute little robot with Doom. You know.
The concept of using the Omni tool to make weapons and drones is like, okay, we're pushing this too far.
Yeah. It's like one has a flamethrower thing, and it's just like,
It's
where
like-
did you get the petroleum from?
Yeah. It's supposed to be a hologram, guys. It's not real.
Yeah.
But now it's real. It's like, all right. Like I like the idea of tech armor, because that was like a combination of technology and biotics. Like, okay, this makes sense. All right, fine. I can wrap my brain around that. But just a drone. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a hologram. It shoots bolts of lightning. You're like, all right, whatever.
My little Palpatine.
Yeah. Zap. Do, 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 do. You just keep making. You just keep. You just sit back. It's like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
On a few key mechanics for the entirety of its runtime and left everything else by the wayside. There were no unnecessary Mako sections. The upgrade
Most of the Mako sections were optional. Yes, a few were compulsory, but unlike planet scanning, you want to get the best ending, guess what? Prepare your wrist for torture, you know?
Everyone I speak to either gets a cheat, or there's a certain. I think there's a certain download you get. If
There's
you,
a mod, yeah, that just does it for you.
Yeah,
You just
everything's
get
there,
rid of
yeah.
it, yeah. It's a sod that.
like, it's a mod, yeah.
and progression mechanics were left lean and mean, and while the planet probing minigame was certainly not the best, to say the least, everything else in the game was exactly what was needed, nothing more.
Exactly what was needed.
That sounds a bit restrictive, doesn't it? In other words, I think that's the game designer kind of going, yeah, I got rid of 90% of the things that were actually fun and interesting. I'm going to determine what's...
It's a corridor cover shooter.
Yes.
That everything's exactly the way it should be. It's like, okay, I guess.
But the thing as well is just that other third-person shooters, whether it be Ghost Recon Warfighter 2 or the Gears of War series, doesn't matter what it is, or even just general shooters, they always give you the option of accessing different weapons. Like Halo, you pick up UNSC weapons, you can pick up Covenant weapons. Mass Effect, you are just locked in place to using those weapons all the same goddamn time. It gets boring really quickly when you're just killing the enemies who are not very varied with the same weapons. So in a third-person shooter approach, that's why I actually put it on subpar levels, unfortunately. I know it's going to annoy a lot of people, but...
Yeah, well, even with Mass Effect 1, you specialize usually in only one gun. So the difference is you had, like, so many guns. And you can modify the crap out of all of them. So it's like, okay, this gun is like a single-use thing. And then you unequip it and you put on your other pistol. And it's like you're shooting... or use your assault rifle with, like, really bad aim. But it's got... freezing rounds, so you're just like you don't really care.
Well, actually, yeah, the snowblind rounds actually they didn't freeze enemies in Mass Effect 1. They made the enemies more inaccurate because you're blinding them with the you're basically hitting them with snow, essentially, like cryogenic snow. It's actually not a bad idea when you think about it. Like, you're just disrupting the sense. It's the radar about to be jammed approach.
But that was the thing. It was this whole mechanic of switching weapons and using them differently and all. And then once you start getting frictionless materials, then your sniper rifle becomes a freaking piece of artillery. It's just like Bow! What's coming at me? A Krogan, no problem. Boom!
I'm just going to turn this into a thermonuclear detonator right now.
I remember that playing when you're on the Citadel and you're climbing up the Citadel and those Krogans are chasing after you in that corridor.
Yeah.
You pull out your sniper rifle. The guy's like really close to you. Pow! He just launches. He just flies off. Like, I didn't even use Biotics. This guy's airborne already. There's zero gravity. He's like, vroom, he's gone. He's not even dead yet. He's still flying. He's just
Yeah. The only thing that Mass Effect 2 did do right was just kind of give a bit more. It improved the visual aesthetics of the shooting mechanics. That's all what it improved. It added a little bit of physics to it, a little bit more, and that's all. That's all what it really did to the shooting mechanics.
I do like the fact they streamlined the guns themselves. I do like the fact that there's a manufacturer and they make this gun, and you can like one of the smart ideas design-wise was say, okay, once you see this gun, you know it's the Predator pistol, or you know it's the Carnifex. So it's like I like that idea. That makes sense.
I think they should have gone down the role of not necessarily blueprinting, because that's a can of worms. But what I mean by is, like, you let's say have the Predator pistol makeup, but then you have different manufacturers who will then give you different options to then upgrade that rifle with or that weapon. It kind of be like the Borderlands approach, where there's like 12 different manufacturers, and that's kind of how they should have done it. Because like I say, that the problem with Mass Effect 1 was the fact that you had 10 different rifles with 10 different manufacturers with 10 different levels, and now do that for every single item in the game, and it just gets flipping ridiculous. But they just needed to prune it. They didn't need to like go, right, see this chainsaw, get rid of it.
Yeah, the flamethrower heavy weapon was a bit awkward. I was like, okay,
yeah.
Flamethrowers, interesting.
See, I think that, like, once again, like, you're facing like these secret swarms, big levels of bugs. It's like you have a flamethrower. Like, just come on. So it's a match made in heaven. Shepard or a Krogan, like, scream, burn them all. There's your biotic bubble.
Picked your squad, you upgraded their powers, you picked your weapons, you headed into missions, and combined the tech and biotic abilities with the combat, all while engaging with its excellent dialogue and its compelling branching narrative.
Compelling. Oh, so
branching.
compelling. The whole point of Mass Effect is the dialogue. That's, to me, is why you play the game. All the shooting, all the running around, all the loyalty missions, it's to get to the dialogue, because that's where you make choices. Yes. And with that comes voice acting. With that comes cinematics. With that comes drama. So to say it's compelling, you say, well, what aspect is compelling? And you have to go back to his first point, which were characters. So it's like, okay, yeah, the characters were compelling because they were attractive. Their stories were likable or unlikable, and that's why you found them interesting. Like, oh, look at that, this guy's evil, or whatever. Garrus could be a badass. Oh, okay. Like, that's what made it. The choices themselves were, aside from the interrupts, were pretty... the torture scene, maybe. It's like, okay, I'm punching this guy. He's like laughing at me. Oh, okay, I'll keep punching him.
Well, you know what's really interesting? It's like, right, okay, torture scene. You want to get information from this guy. If only we had someone which could read your mind. If only we had a species capable of doing that. You know what I mean?
Samara, you're a purveyor of justice. Go for it.
It's like it's an evil dude, so guess what? You can knock him 7 belts of snot out of him while you're there. Crack on, have a feel. It's like every character is alienated from each other. You can't like bring Samara on with Thane or whatever, or like I think it was one of your videos where was it there where if you do Zaid's mission, it's like you don't save the colonies, you're basically letting them all burn to death. It's like some people may have an issue with that. Like, they really would. They would actually have, like, PTSD from that. It's like, there's people there? Yeah. We can't let them burn to death. Yeah. Not going to have any issues over that, are we? No, I'm good. I'm good.
I like how they went through many iterations of the HUD. And I remember seeing the HUD from the first demo they released. And they obviously gave Shepard invincibility mode because they were just walking around to show it off. And a lot of different like commands you could have given your squad to like go over there, but going over there was kind of irrelevant. They would just sort of walk into fire anyway.
Yeah. It's like they would act on their own. Like you tell them to go there, and then they go and do their own thing. And it's like, well, you're not doing what I'm telling you. At least with like, because once again, I played the PC version, so I could tell them to move, defend, do other things as well. So, if they wanted to go on the tactical route, then once again, Ghost Recon allowed you to do a whole manner of things. There was nothing really stopping you. But they wanted to go for a much more streamlined approach, if whatever that means.
Yeah, which was kind of ridiculous when you see the effects of proper, the equipment system in Mass Effect 3, where you can modify your gun to be all kinds of crazy maneuvers, and the lack of cooldowns on some of these guns for your side characters with Garrus. It's just like there's a really hilarious...
Yeah, the N7 Valkyrie with Garrus.
With Garrus, it's just like he crushes everything.
It's like people kind of go, "Oh, you need the Kane." It's like, no, you just need Garrus with all these upgrades, and he will just slice through planets.
Yeah, same thing with not the same as, but almost as powerful with what's her name? With who's the other assault rifle girl? Ashley. She can do it. Yeah, she could have the same equipment as well. So,
yeah, but she doesn't have all the damage upgrades that Garrus does.
No, not as much. But she's still assault oriented. So, as opposed to what's his name, who's more defensive. The big brick man. I can't remember his name.
James Vega.
James Vega. There we go. I always forget about. The brick dude. It's like, oh, okay. Slab bulkhead. Here we go.
That was all the game needed to do, and it knew it. It would be foolish to suggest branching narrative. That was all the game needed to do, and it knew it.
Yes. Branching narrative was the most important part, I would say. And it did have choices, but there weren't that many. And they didn't have any results that we could see properly, aside from blue or red explosion and blue or red star. At Tim's mood planet or mood screensaver, whatever you call it.
His mood, son.
I'm very angry with you, Shepard, because behind me is blue. Like what? Okay.
It's really funny that the end sequence of that. I actually got one end sequence where Shepard actually said, this war's about to begin, and I need to find some way to stop the re. And that was the scene that I got. I was just like. That's what you should have been doing from the get-go, you absolute sandwich of a moron,
It's like, hey, Tim, you wanna patrol the terminus systems for human colonies? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy 100 probes, and we're gonna launch them around orbit of every planet. Next time one goes dark, we're gonna go check it out. In the meantime, we have shit to do. Okay? How's that for a plan? Thanks for the ship, by the way. Talk to you soon.
It would be foolish to suggest that Mass Effect 2 was a masterpiece from a gameplay perspective. In isolation, its gameplay was solid and functional, but that's all that it was. But in the context of the rest of the entire experience, it was exactly what was needed.
Okay, so it was solid and functional, and because of everything else, it was just what it needed.
I think what that means is that it was just enough to eke you by to keep your interest into you. I don't know how to explain it. I guess I can, but I'm getting a bit tired of the whole Bioware have never been good at combat, right? And they do combat in a way that kind of goes, okay, I'm going to plod through this. It happens even with Dragon Age, a game that I love, Dragon Age Origins. It's like, yeah, the combat's a bit whatever, but then you move on to something like, yeah, the stuff that I really want to do. But the thing about Bioware is just that because they don't have much variance in it, or especially Mass Effect 2, there's just no variety. That's one of the reasons why I can play for Mass Effect 1 again, because they had different things to do in that game. This, on the other hand, is just a series of corridors with a Tim smoking man at the end picture.
Yeah. Merc Gang 1, Merc Gang 2, they're all the same. It's like, blue
there's
suns.
No variety.
Woo. Now they have mechs. Ooh. Now they have robots. Ooh. It's like, now they have dogs. Now they have robot dogs. Like, oh. Yeah, you got to have a bit more targets to shoot at.
Plus as well, because they deliberately focused more on the shooting, like that's what became the core pillar of the game. But the shooting mechanics of it all, I will say this, time and again, are not good. They're not like horribly bad, but they're not to a standard where you can kind of go, okay, this is where they've definitely focused on, where they've improved.
It's like they looked at Gears and went, okay, we can get close to that, but there's no way we can do half of that. And they just sort of got, 30% there. Like, oh yeah, this is all right. That's playable.
Yeah.
That's playable. Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, it's like they've heard of Gears of War, but they don't really know. It's like third-person shooter, shooting things. Yeah, that sounds about right. We've done that before. Yeah. Like, of course you did. You made Mass Effect 1, you moron. You had crouching in that game.
Yeah. God, I miss crouching. Holy crap. Maybe we should become a smaller target for our enemies. No. Don't do that. What, are you crazy?
We don't know when or if BioWare will go back to their best.
Never.
No.
Never, and they're going to get bought or just close, I bet.
Everyone's going to be oh so sad. How did this happen?
Yeah.
Well,
it's like the Dragon Age Inquisition flop in terms of content and quality. Andromeda, oh boy. And Anthem is just a constant reminder of they don't have it anymore.
it's like it's like it may have been the cardiac arrest that killed Bioware, but we know they died of a broken. Oh man, I think Bioware is just the case of they gorged themselves on the prospect of AAA gaming. They got themselves so high and mighty that they forgot what actually made them like when people talk about the core roots and things like that. Yes, they had problems in the past. All developers have problems, but they've never learned from what made them successful. Like originally, Mass Effect 2 was the beginning of the end because it was the high octane drug that got put into their veins. They don't know why this game was successful, and that was mostly because of EA's marketing that they banged out massively.
Right? Yeah, I'd agree with that. The marketing for Mass Effect 2, I talked about this probably why my channel is what it is today. Every 2 days there was a new video, a character reveal. They were on the they rented a seat or a box seat and did live streaming during the Super Bowl of that year. They went on live stream Facebook. They did all kinds of just constant interviews. For some reason, Will Wheaton was interviewed to playtest the game. Crazy crap.
They also had a 3-part series on the Sci-Fi Channel with the theoretical physicist.
Yeah, that was
talking as well. Like they did, EA just went absolutely bombastic on it. And it's like, because they needed it to appeal to a wider market, which to me, I actually reckon that was EA trying to recoup their costs after purchasing Bioware. And let's also forget that Bioware was still making the Titanic at the time. Like that, they've actually been trying to make that since 2006, before EA's acquisition of the company. People forget that completely. That was Bioware's problem, not EA's. So if you have a company which is just eating $200 million, it's like, well, of course you're going to be making demands. Like, you need to start selling 7 million copies minimum now to become viable, to stay afloat. It's like, oh, right, yeah, maybe we need to start doing this. It's like, kinda. So it's not EA's fault. I guess it is kind of EA's fault for dropping $200 million and giving it to Bioware and kind of going, make game now. Make game good.
Make online game, please, that will sell.
It's like, really, they should have just axed that project from the get-go and just kind of gone, no, just make KOTOR free and just have done with it. Don't try to do an MMO, please.
That is what they're. I think KOTOR and Baldur's Gate is what sort of elevated them, and Mass Effect was the main. I would say Mass Effect is the streamlining of KOTOR that was more consumable to the mainstream market because it was a shooter.
Yeah. It was an interesting mix because I know it was an Xbox 360 exclusive as well for quite a while. But that was when they were. But the thing is, though, is just that they actually sold quite a lot of copies just on Xbox alone. So it would just by them going to PS4 was really just kind of them getting greedy. personally. It's just they didn't need to go to PS4, but they did, and now looks like
with the appeal of cinematic storytelling and full voice acting, it's like, oh wow, this is like playing a movie. And then they started having ridiculous quotes from, I can't remember what website. This is the Avatar of video games, or this is the Star Wars of our time, and all this crap. You're like, okay, that's pushing it.
Like, the thing is, though, is that the first one was the best in the sense of it brought us into the world, because it was like, oh, we've got all these new possibilities and things like that. And then they went, oh, we're going to make this into a planned trilogy. And it's like, I reckon they shouldn't have gone down the planned trilogy. I reckon that the Reaper threat should have been just a continual thing as part of the franchise. It shouldn't have been a Shepard story alone. You know, it's like, yeah, you can have Shepard in the next couple of games. It's like, okay, it's now time for a new protagonist for Mass Effect 3 or whatever, or Mass Effect 4. Continue on the legacy of it all.
Right.
Actually, in fact, you can even make it a family legacy, the Shepard legacy. You know, I know it's kind of like Star Warsy again, but if we're going down that vein, then yeah,
right.
we could have done that.
And the choices could still have their own independent consequences, and they didn't have to be some ridiculous scoring system like you're playing a shoot 'em up game or something. And it's like, oh, I got 20 million points. Like, okay, you get the best ending. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
In recent years, they've stumbled from one error to the next, and it feels like each error has been more grievous than the last. We're all hoping that they'll be back on form sooner rather than later.
With Casey Hudson in charge, that's for sure.
How many people bet that the next Dragon Age game we get is going to be the worst one ever that we've seen?
It's going to be an online live service. It's just like, no, you can't. Oh, just no, please. This is going to be horrible.
It's going to. Every sign is pointing to bad. It's based off the tech from Anthem. Okay, all the things they learned, if they learned anything from Anthem and Frostbite, which is just.
Well, the thing about when I actually read through that expose on the Anthem thing really got me, because one of the quotes really stuck out for me when he said, Frostbite wasn't designed for third-person games. And I just went, really? Because here's a huge list of all the third-person games that have been made in Frostbite. Bioware, what are you doing? You made third-person games in Frostbite. Clearly, you can do it. I reckon it's because they lost the experience. People just left and just went, I'm out of here. Or they lost a lot of their software engineers, the core, the people who actually need to make the game it is. So, yeah, they've just lost it completely. They've lost all that talent, they lost all that experience, and everyone's still like, Edmonton can still be great. It's like, it's not Edmonton anymore. Well, they've moved studio, haven't they? So
there's a whole brand new bunch of people. A lot of the alums are gone. It's just, why Casey is back, I don't even know anymore.
Well, Casey's actually a hindrance, because he's got such a huge growth for online play. He's been wanting this since Mass Effect 1. Any mention of online play is like, no, I got to have online play in some way, shape, or form. It's like, no, Casey, back. You want to get a stick and just go, no, and continually hit him with it. Like, what was Project Dylan? It's an MMO thing that has dynamic weather. Like, that's it. We've had dynamic weather technology since like 2004, mate. It doesn't work because it always hits you to the red line, because no computer or console can handle it. That's why they drop it. It's just,
The closest thing we get is Frostbite with, was it Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 5 for all the dynamic networked weather, not necessarily weather, but, water, buildings, destroyable buildings.
I think Battlefield 4 did that, but that was all kind of pre-done, as it was. Battlefield Bad Company did the whole you can blow up anything kind of approach.
I'm just trying to think of actual results from Frostbite that would work properly with the stuff that, because Casey wanted to do some really like survival style resource management, 4-player online, Dylan stuff like that. Was like, okay, it's all right. It's not a bad idea. Just, you're gonna create a world economy really through that? Like how, like stuff like that we read in the first Mass Effect pitch.
Yeah.
Which is like, whoa, dude, no.
Yeah, you can't have a Again, like, I know what he was basically doing was he was just making Helldivers, which is an excellent game, by the way, with more people. And it's just like, well, okay, but what's going to separate you from every other shooter out there? Like, what are the enemies going to be like? What the environment's going to be like? And it's just like, I think this was a problem with Casey. He's got his head too in the clouds. He's got one idea that he really wants to focus on, like with the procedural generation of planets and all these other kind of crazy things. It's just like, no, it sounds great, but it doesn't work in practice. It just doesn't. Oh, only in certain games, I should say. It doesn't work in a Mass Effect game.
If you like you talk about No Man's Sky, like that's your whole project is procedural generation. If that's what you want to do, then that's what you're gonna like. You don't do 20 different things in game design. You do 3. You do 3 gameplay ideas because that's the only thing that's, as we've seen in other games, that have the capacity to work, or you have the time and money to do. And that's when you have scope creep come in, when you have people quitting because they get burnt out.
Yeah.
Like there's all sorts of technical problems you have to fix. And the magic number has been 3. Any game you play that they try to do something new, start counting all the gameplay mechanics and see what's special here. And it's either going to be one thing or 3 things at most.
It's like Mass Effect 1 was, Mass Effect 1 was actually made, funnily enough, in its final year, because they were just bumbling around with new technologies and things like that. And but they focused on combat, dialogue, and exploration.
Yep.
And that's what they needed to do. And then they just needed to expand upon that in other games. That's what was needed, or refining, I should say.
Yeah, and I could say that the interrupt system was already there in Mass Effect 1. They just didn't have time to implement all of it and to do the extra branches because we saw it in the X05 demo?
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the first demos of Mass Effect that the public saw.
That was actually hastily matched together. Like there's loads of things. I remember the original Galaxy map that they showed off. That was just an Adobe Flash player.
Yeah.
It's like they just literally went, yeah, let's just do this. And all the team were like, I don't think we can do that. Like, it's like a year to go to the game releases. And they're like, we don't know if we can do that. Like, what do you want us to do? And that just shows you, like, Casey Hudson's, like, his idea of a project manager. It's just, he's crap. Sorry to say that, but it's just awful. At least with, like, Kotor, he had a book to pass up because there was LucasArts, the kind of going, no, you need to do it this way, and all, this is how this works, and this is how that works. But because they're in their own world, well, not good.
But regardless of what happens in the future, at least we'll always be able to look back on the past to remind ourselves of just how good BioWare could be when they were on top of their game.
I'd say how popular BioWare can be by streamlining everything and having a really good cinematic director. That's Mass Effect 2. Everything else was broken. Levels were broken. A lot of the gameplay was broken or boring. The storytelling was fine for characters, just bad for the main plot, and the music was good.
Yeah.
And with Mass Effect 2, that's absolutely where they were, on top of their game. It's a game that achieves everything it sets out to do, which is rare to see in any entertainment medium, and it's the sort of achievement that probably won't ever be replicated again. And that
even he admits, it's never going to happen.
Well, it's really funny because Mass Effect 2 wasn't exactly ambitious in any way, shape, or form. And some people kind of go, that can be a good thing, but I think that's a good thing if that's going to be your first game. Just make a core idea and then build upon it, and then you don't like go for gold and then go for bronze and then try to get silver next time around. It's all a bit just kind of, I don't know. It's just because it's popular. Everyone forgets like EA's $40 million marketing budget that they just threw at BioWare, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's really nice to look at the numbers of what they spent their money and time on and how they pump these games out. So
I had to keep reminding people that Mass Effect Andromeda had a $100 million budget. It's like, that's how much they spent on it. It's like 40 million for the actual production, 20 million for R&D, and 40 million for marketing, which was non-existent. That game was non-existent. Like, they just did not want to sell that.
They made a lot of videos, but they were just for online usage, and
The space camp.
I don't know what they were for. It's like, oh, we're gonna talk about the space station. You're like, okay, the thing no one really cares about. All right, fine. You're building a space station, but not en route. So, okay, you're just waiting. You're just sending crap out with you after 600 years. Like, all right, I'm sure. All kinds of weird design choices. With a broken premise, you're not going to get very far. So it's hard to rationalize how this all works.
Yeah.
Especially after the end of Mass Effect 3, we're like, why is this happening? When is this taking place? Why aren't you continuing the story? What's wrong with the galaxy as is? It's too hard. It's too impossible. Okay.
Yeah, once again, that's just a committal problem in terms of they would actually have to reconcile the fact that they made a poor ending. There'd be too many writers in there kind of going, well, what about this? What about that? And there's no one in Bioware right now, especially in the writing team, to just kind of go, no, this is how it's done. This is how we're going to do it. And this is where we're going to push forward.
Yeah.
It's always going to be someone who goes, what about this? It's like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, like if you're talking about the memorable stuff of Mass Effect 2 and 3, like the thing that sticks out in my mind is the stuff with Tali and Legion, their stories, and the Shadow Broker. Everything else is kind of generic. It's like, yeah, it was good. It was good. Wasn't bad. It just, when you get to the main story, you're like, oh, this is dumb. Why are we doing half the stuff we shouldn't even be doing? Or we say, hey, Morton, here's a shuttle. Go to that planet and go investigate stuff and I don't know, set up a laboratory or something. Just do that. Like that, that would have been perfectly acceptable while we go do other important things, like tow a frickin' Reaper back to the Citadel.
Right. Let's just plant a flag in that, and then kind of go, right, let's just dial it back a little bit. That thing as well always makes me laugh. Where Tim's like, hey, if you want to bring the council on board, by all means. It's like, in every opportunity you have to contact the council, you don't do it. You just can't. There's no option there. There's just nothing. The covenant has been broken. So I've been discovering this 50 million year old Reaper. It's just like, and you're not telling everyone because.
Wasn't Prothean technology or Prothean anything, like it's really super special stuff that everyone was like, oh my god, you have Prothean beacons? Holy crap. We got to protect that. That's amazing. It's like, okay, I have this thing that's like really, really old, and it's come to eat us. Maybe we should share the knowledge. Maybe we should share the secret with everyone else. It's like, nah, we'll just throw it into the star.
It gets even worse with the Taurian, where the Taurian patrol gets hit by the collector vessel. It's like, you wouldn't have thought like the Taurians would kind of go, this is an unknown beam-like weapon, the one that similarly hit the Normandy. Maybe we should investigate. And Tim's like, no, I'm just going to send them false information. It's like, no. It's like, they are council members. I said I want to try and bring the council on board, and you are ignoring. It's like, who's in charge here? Come on, let's be honest. And that, once again, that it undermines Shepard and completely removes any sense of agency. Even the trailer, like the first cinematic trailer that they had, was about, Shepard building the team. It was Shepard doing all these things. It was Shepard going out and having these adventures. And when you got to play the game, it's like, no, Tim's doing it. Tim's done it. He's done it for you. It's like, oh, can I do anything? Yeah, you can get on that shuttle and go down your corridor shooter. Enjoy it.
Yeah, I didn't like the idea of, it's like, he has to fight to earn my trust. It's like, okay. Or this is a military organization and you follow my orders or you die. Like, which one do you want here? There's a hierarchy. I'm the boss. Okay. We do what I want, or you die. It's kind of awkward when you're creating a team for the most dangerous of missions, where you have to you're going to die, but it's like, I gotta visit my childhood. so I can feel better about myself, and then I'll die. It's like, what? Why don't you try to make the suicide mission less a suicide mission?
Right.
That would help people to get on your side a lot better than, dealing with their daddy issues. Might be a better strategy there. And while you're at it, go share the secret of the Reapers with everyone else. That's kind of, priority number one. Share the secret of the 47 million year old Reaper. Priority 2, daddy issues. Priority 3, daddy issues. Priority 2, make the suicide mission less suicidal. And yes,
Operation not make people die.
Yeah, that's kind of and don't get more people to die. Like, just don't start adding stuff to your ship. They're gonna die. Like, don't do that. Start with one person. It's like, what do you need? Okay,
This is something as well, right? It's like you get this new armor plating, but it's like, how do you know it's going to work though against collector weaponry? You don't know. So the collector should have been engaging other forces that you have to getting information on them. It's like, okay, they've used this, recovering the Normandy wreck. It's like, well, you recover it, you kind of go, right, it's this kind of beam weapon. Like, what was the there's that mission that you come off of Eden Prime. The body of the guy basically approached you and his wife.
Oh yes,
being held. It's like you need moments like that. Like, kind of have like the families of the Normandy kind of going, what's happened to our family, where the bodies of the dead, and when it's like, well, we're just holding on to the Normandy. You're now in that position of, do I give up the information? Like, what do I do with this? Just something like that gives you a bit more of a connection to the Normandy. If the Normandy SR1 would be destroyed, personally, I don't want it destroyed. I think that one's awesome. So I don't understand why making the ship bigger makes it more agile. I've never understood that.
Yeah, no. Mass is still mass in space. You still have to.
Yeah.
The smaller you are, and the less space you occupy, the faster you can be. The more weight you are, the more stuff you have, the more energy you need to expend to turn left or right. So
and the more mass element 0 you need to make yourself massless.
Right.
Makes it more expensive. So it's. And the Normandy had a pretty big drive in it anyway. Because was it the Tantalus drive? Did they call it?
It's a tighter ship, and I kind of like that idea. And the problem was they wanted such a big roster to tell their stories. We got to put them in this room. When you look at the size of the rooms, they're gigantic. Like Samara, she has this whole room to herself. It's like, what do you need that for? What is going on? She's a monk. She doesn't need a big ass room. She just needs a corner of any room. She'll be happy. Same with Thane. He takes up. He needs a moist environment or whatever.
If it's an arid environment, yeah.
It's like, just put him in the oxygen room.
Put the AI right next to the medical bay. There's not going to be any creeper experiments in there.
Oh no, the AI next to the computer core or whatever it was. It's like, no, don't do that. And why is the computer core at the back of the medical bay?
I also like it in the when you go through the Omega 4 relay. It's like the FTL drive just looked like a Christmas tree. It's like, that's not. No. You don't use your FTL when you're going through the mass relay. That does it for you. That is the FTL. When you go to FTL, you have to use your element 0 core to make yourself lighter. That's how it. Do you people even read? It's like, I got the feeling that I just like. I would just need to have a big law book and just beat people over the head with it and just go, no, this is not how it would work.
Yeah, the problem with coming out of the Omega 4 relay, they deaccelerated very quickly, but they didn't. They almost pretty much stopped on a dime, because if they were decelerating and the other objects were like, they were able to maneuver at the same speed, that means those objects were also traveling at the same speed you were decelerating, which is like, okay, how is this happening? So you should have either smashed right into something as you decelerated, and that's why the collector's ships designed their ships that way, because this is huge mountain in the front of them, and they're like, well, it's going to get wrecked anyway, so we'll just keep smashing our ship, because it's a huge ship, so obviously it would have hit something. when it came
Yeah,
out
you would have thought. Yeah, because there's no corresponding relay. It's like, well, what's going on then? I don't understand it. Like, you've just broken how the mass relays actually work in this game. Thanks, Bioware. So
they have no problems breaking every single
that's true.
mass relay explanation. Like the third game, the fourth game, it's like, yeah, we'll just mass relays. They're magic big devices that we'll do whatever we want with. So yeah, sure.
You can look through them, even though when the humans first started sending probes, they lost contact with them.
They're quantum locked until they're not.
Yeah.
You can jury rig them together. One is an alpha and it's bigger and betterer than all the others and communicate to dark space. You're like, okay. Sure, I guess. You can move the Citadel through one. It's like, of course you can. Why not? Citadel's like gigantic superstructure, and a mass relay is too, but nowhere near as big as the Citadel. Guess what?
Yeah, it's like,
no problem.
I think, was it the Citadel's like, was it 30 kilometers long, whereas the mass relay's 15 or something like that? It's a pretty big thing, and it's so big that it doesn't have enough element zero to actually make artificial gravity. It has to use centrifugal forces to generate its own gravity. That's how big it is.
It's all these things that the hard science fiction lovers of the first game go, hey, this is what I wanted. I wanted a Dungeons and Dragons level of detail in the future with a almost Kotor feel with fully voiced cinematics. That was the appeal of Mass Effect. It could have been an RTS. It could have been, I don't know.
Could have been Dragon Age, but with guns and a cover system. Like, that was it. They could have done that.
They tried to do that. I mean, we did get something like that in Mass Effect. So,
well, what I mean is that Mass Effect removed itself from the whole squad changing abilities to squad character swapping abilities. You're just in control of Shepard and Shepard alone, kind of thing. Mostly because they couldn't actually get that character swapping thing to work properly. It was too buggy. But if they would have, let's say, like a Full Spectrum Warrior and how they did their game, it's like they could have done it that way. That was a way more easier solution.
Yeah, I see.
So if they did that, but you have control of 4 people and you control them individually on what kind of controls, fire control systems with your own launch grenades, they could have done it that way. Like they didn't have to be restricted to third-person shooter because they wanted to go, because Mass Effect 1 was their first entry into AAA gaming. I think they thought they needed to have that appeal of being a third-person shooter. And because Gears of War came out in 2006, and
I think they were heavily inspired by Gears. They just didn't know how to emulate it.
Yeah, I think the first one though was quite literally a hash, because the first combat system was a very janky auto lock-on, and then in like the final 6 months they just redid it, which just shows you that they were capable, that they were on the right tracks. They just needed to improve it and refine it.
Yeah,
like that was all. They just didn't need to remove a whole lot of it. You don't need to crouch. You don't need these basic leg functions, Shepard.
Well, they reinvented Biotics. They reinvented the guns. Reinvented ammo.
Shields.
They did so much crap, and it's like, okay, is it streamlined? Yeah, it's more consumable by the general public, but it was no longer Mass Effect in lore. It was only Mass Effect in Shepard's character and all the characters you remember from the first game.
Yeah, it's like going from Next Generation to the Star Trek 2009. It's like, it's sleeker, it's slicker, it's so slippery, it's like filled with KY jelly. Like, that's how slick it is.
Yeah.
It's unnecessarily slick.
It's like, wow, look at all these explosions and cinematics, which are attractive. I'm not saying Mass Effect 2 should not be a blockbuster kind of experience, because it's trying to be up there with the big boys. And it is one of the most loved games in terms of science fiction or sci-fi style shooter games of all time. Top 10 lists all the time. It got crazy reviews. Crazy good, 99, 90s. I remember all the trailers that came out, just lauding this game. One of my favorite game trailers of all time, actually, was Mass Effect 2. So, does it deserve the popularity praise? Of course it does. It resonated with a lot of people for whatever reason, whether they like this character or dislike that character. All sorts of reasons to like it. But the people who remember the first game go, gee, where did my RPG go?
Yeah.
Where did all the story go? Where did all the... well, not where did the characters go, because obviously they just kept going with characters, but where was the focus of the story? And that's why I made my channel. I had to post my Mass Effect 2 response
Well, then you
videos.
got banned from Bioware forums, didn't you?
I did, yeah. That happened a little later. I was still like, months later, because I was just kept bashing people's arguments. But yeah, there's certain things you can't communicate on Bioware when you get a little feisty. And then we had all kinds of ban hammers, different
Stanley
mods.
Wu.
Stanley Wu, I didn't really talk to him too much. I'm trying to
He
remember.
was more SWTOR. He was more SWTOR than anything else.
Yeah, that
Dragon.
Dragon Age and SWTOR, yeah. So, yeah, been a while. But I think we've exhausted this video. I think,
Yeah.
Mass Effect 2 is going to still be in our hearts. It's just not... it's the potential that we see. It's the things that we're like, oh, if they just did, 30 different things in this direction,
I think, the thing about Mass Effect 2 is just that if it was called Mass Effect 2, a side story, I guess we would have been a bit more accepting. But because it was a direct sequel to 1, it's like, no, you're just kicking Mass Effect 1 for being Mass Effect 1. It's too nerdy for you. It's not a bro shooter with my collar popped up kind of thing. It's...
Yeah, I think Jack was the sort of sign of, okay, that's a bit much for me. It's like you're in space. It's like, no, you are in space. You need something covering you. It's like, imagine
explosive decompression is a thing in space.
It's like reading Dune or watching the Dune movie or miniseries. It's like you are on a desert planet. You need something covering your body.
Yeah.
They've invented these things called spacesuits. I mean, still suits that you need to survive. Like, everyone should be wearing that.
Well, that's again part of the RPG removal system. Is like the whole armor class system is gone. It's gone. You don't need armor. Like soldiers used to be with heavy armor with the modularity of it all. It's like, no, you just have 2 options now, and that's it. It's like, oh, that's great. Just completely remove that whole aspect.
Miranda needs was it PVC body suits, and Miranda needs no covering on her chest, Samara needs no covering on her chest, and Jack gets a vest.
Yeah, just a black jacket, like a waistcoat jacket thing. It's like, this is great.
And what's his name? Thane gets a reskin with sunglasses.
No, that was part of the DLC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which they sold. Which actually, when you look back on it, it's like when they sold all those DLC packs. You compare them today. Like they sold DLC packs, and each character got like a different customization to it all, and it was like sold for $2.99 or something. But if you put that in today's working, it will be like $25 each for each skin. It's like
there was a Firewalker pack. There was
Zaid as well, but that was
Cerberus Network. Yeah, that was day 1 too.
Yeah, that was free though, but that was mostly because if you bought the game new, if you bought the game pre-purchased, because that was GameStop basically gutting the gaming industry, and they had to stop it.
Yeah,
so it was a bad thing to do, but I can understand it.
Yeah, the 2 purchases I think for DLC, the bigger ones aside from the armor packs, like Miranda got an armor pack.
I got the gun packs as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Arrival was the first. No. Shadowbroker was the first.
Yeah, Shadowbroker.
Then it was Kasumi.
It was Overlord.
Then it was Overlord. I forgot about that. Overlord was probably first.
I don't know. Yeah, but obviously Arrival was the bridge to the 2 peaks of Mount Kilimanjaro.
The last DLC for Mass Effect 2. It's like, oh, why did we play the game again? Let's play this.
Prepare yourself for the arrival. Mass Effect 3. We don't know if it's the Reapers arriving yet, but I think we got a hint in terms of who might.
Did anyone
Really?
did anyone record this? Anyone? Microphone anywhere?
Yes.
Suit recordings, are they working anywhere? No. It's
Yeah.
just a booming voice, Shepard. It's not a real Reaper.
Yeah, it's like Shepard goes on a crazy adventure and everyone humors him. You know?
It's just a hologram, Shepard. It's not real. They're just messing with you. All right, I think we're done. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Have a great day, guys.